Hello and welcome to episode 106 of Radio Gorepress. I am Phil, and with me, as always, are my wonderful co-hosts.
Laughing idiots.
Our two walking disasters, Sarah and Rosie. How are you both doing today?
I'm barely walking, to be honest.
Two sitting disasters today.
Yeah, I did all my walking yesterday and now my feet hurt.
Yeah, the disaster part is accurate, however.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 50% right isn't bad, I suppose.
50% right is pretty bad.
That wouldn't even be a passing grade.
It's 50% very wrong as well.
I blame the amount of choices I had.
Is the glass 50% correct or 50% incorrect?
As the saying goes.
Is it 50% a glass?
I think it's 100% a glass. I'm not sure. Depends which way you look at it.
Might be a mug.
It could be a mug. I have a mug.
I think that saying would make a lot more sense if you said, is the mug half full or half empty? Because you can't see through the side of it to cheat.
I don't think that's what it means. I thought I was the one who was supposed to take things literally.
Is the mug half full or half empty? Trick question, it's 3/4 full.
Trick question, it's a mug.
Oh.
Good start, guys.
Thanks,
Good start.
thanks, babe, thanks. No, I'm all right. I had a lovely day yesterday, very lovely day. I went to a cat cafe.
Amazing.
And stroked some cat izzles, and there were lots of sleeping cats, and I had a panini, and it was very nice.
Was the panini served by a cat?
It was not, contrary to what I'd hoped, it was not like the cat returns.
Oh.
Rubbish. What's the point then?
This doesn't sound like any kind of cat cafe that I want to be a part of.
There were people feeding the cats and
Ew.
talking about... Not feeding us the cats. Fuck's sake.
No, I mean, ew, there were people.
Oh, only like 2 of them. There were about 15 cats, though. It was great.
Okay, as long as the cats outnumber the people, then...
By far.
Yeah.
And the cats were lovely, and there was a long fuzzy boy called Woody. He's my mate now. And
you're gonna stay in touch.
We are. I'm gonna go back there. We're BFFs now. And then I went round loads of charity shops, and as you know, spending money I don't have on cheap shit I don't need is my very favourite thing.
Did you get any books?
I did.
What did you get?
I've got them up here actually. I got 2 Stephen King books.
Nice. Which ones?
I got Elevation and Nightmares and Dreamscapes.
Okay.
Never read either of those.
Neither have I, which is why I bought them.
Review pending, please.
I bought It by Raymond Hawkey. Yeah, I know, right? It's not it. It's different. It's a different story.
Did you just look at the title and go, yeah, that's the one I want?
No, I read the back of it and then I was like, oh, this isn't it. I still want it.
I think you just broke my brain.
Yeah. I bought some Isaac Asimov, some Edgar Allan Poe, because I'm a big goth.
Nice.
And I bought a book of spells for mindfulness because I am a mindful kitchen witch, and it was only £1 in the works.
Mindful kitchen witch.
Yeah.
Love it.
My mindful cooking and shit. But yeah, I've had like a genuinely really nice couple of days. But today I am so tired because my cat's an ass. And he woke me up at 2 a.m.
Maybe he's jealous of Woody's.
Yeah, take him to the cat cafe and see if you can exchange him.
Just leave him there. I don't even need another one at the moment.
Well, leave him and take Woody. That seems like a fair trade.
What you want is for me to leave him and come and take Burke.
Yes, please. Please. As soon as you can.
I want to put them in the same room and see what happens.
Nothing. It'd be like some sort of weird passive submissive off. They would just be showing each other their bellies and nothing would happen.
Like swiping with their claws in.
Yeah.
And then one of them would go, do you know what? If we shout loud enough, they feed us. And that'd be it.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, no.
God, no. And then they would team up and be Tweedledee and Tweedledum. That sounds horrendous.
That'd be Tweedledum and Tweedledum, I think.
Yeah, Tweedledum and Tweedledummer.
Two little tubby boys
Yeah.
with their tubby biscuit tums.
I don't think we should facilitate this in hindsight.
That's pretty good. How are you, Sarah?
I'm all right. I've just been working as usual. Things are very, very difficult for small businesses at the moment. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm trying to crack on and do some new designs, try and keep people interested.
Got your plant collection coming out?
Yeah, I've kind of covered the spectrum of emotions throughout the process of this collection.
Yeah.
I will go from loving it one day to hating it the next and being so critical, and then the next minute I'll just be like, nah, I'm fucking proud.
Are you feeling proud of it at the moment?
More so than the negative things, yes.
Good, I'm glad.
We are nearing the end. I have one piece to go and I'm very, very excited to unleash that onto the world and move on to the next thing.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
Peep.
Yes.
Peep, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm on the cusp of having like a bunch of work coming in, which is kind of exciting because I haven't been doing a lot of work recently. But until that work materializes, I'm just very aware of my bank account.
No.
I know that feel.
Yeah.
I found out the other day it's still it's only an offer at the moment, but I might be guest lecturing at Kent Uni.
Ooh,
What?
okay.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're going to drop by for, I was going to say a brew every now and again, but you don't drink hot drinks, do you? You big weirdo.
I drink tea. I like tea.
All right.
Yeah.
Since when?
It's just not one of the things I think to drink.
I lived with you for 4 years.
All right, well, I'll get some Pepsi Max in then. How's
There
that?
you go.
Also acceptable.
Pepsi Max or Monster.
Either's fine.
All right.
But
I can stretch to that.
No, but yeah, that's super exciting. It's only just like an offer at the moment.
When
But
you
we'll see
say
if it
it's an
materialises.
offer at the moment, what does that mean? Because surely an offer is them going, do you want to do it? And then you say, yes, please.
It comes off the back of a friend I know who already works there. And I posted on LinkedIn a while ago, and he said, "Be cool to have you guest lecture." And I said, "Yeah, let me know." And that's been it.
Oh, no. Right, we're going to talk about this later, about you chasing up opportunities. Okay.
It only happened like on Friday, and I said, "Yeah, I'm happy to do that. DM me about it," and that's been it.
All right.
We will talk to you post podcast about being aggressive and assertive.
Be aggressive. Be aggressive. B-E-A-G-G-R-E-S-S-I-V-E.
But not too aggressive. Don't intimidate them.
No, that would be too much. Be aggressive, but
so
chaste.
conflicted right now.
Aggressive, but demure and chaste.
Yeah.
My head will explode if I try and work out what that means.
Probably best not to. We'll go into more detail later.
Yeah.
Right. So this week we thought, since I'm not sure how long it's been since we've done a religious horror, but
I can't remember if we ever have.
That was my thought. Yeah, I've been trying to work out. So we thought we'd.
We did that. We did that horror film about a lady who died, and a man went round to her house. Her son goes round to her house, and there's like
Last Will and Testament.
Of what's her name? Yeah,
Rosalind Lee.
Rosalind Lee. That's it. We did that.
Yeah, that's quite religious.
There you go.
That is definitely religious.
Some of Rawhead Rex was in a church.
Have we done Borderlands?
No. We should.
We should.
I'd be up for that. I'd be up for Borderlands.
But we're not doing that. What are we doing instead, Phil?
We are doing Saint Maud. It's been a while since we've done a recent movie as well, like a fairly recent. Like it's only been, I think Saint Maud's only just come out on VOD, like to rent or buy, in fact, rather than...
Yeah, it was released 2019, wasn't it? Or was it May 2019?
It was made 2019. I don't think it came out until the start of this year.
Oh yeah, no, that's right, actually.
Because it was kind of one of the last films to get a cinematic release before lockdowns really, really hit last year. So it did have the luxury of actually being shown in cinemas, even for a short time.
Only grossed 1.8 million in cinemas, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can probably blame the pandemic for a lot of its limited success, because it seems to be doing really well in the home entertainment market, and the critical response has been overwhelmingly positive. So
I can't call it the pandemic anymore.
What are we going to call it?
Well, after a specific TikTok, I call it the pandemonic, and I can't stop myself saying the word.
See, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and some of them call it like the pandemonium, or because YouTube suppresses videos that actually say the words like pandemic or
COVID or we're gonna put this up on YouTube.
There go our chances at widespread success.
The Panda
I'm sure that's what did it.
The Panda M. I hate that. I can't put into words how much I hate the Panda M.
That can get in the bin.
Yeah. old COVID tits. I don't know.
You just started saying words and hoped it ended somewhere, didn't you?
I kind of hoped that a sentence would come out, but it didn't. It was just nonsense.
That's generally how I go through life.
COVID tits. Why?
I don't know. I'm
the
just
best
gonna
you can come up with, huh?
I'm just gonna throw this out there. Probably not gonna catch on. And that wasn't a pandemic joke either.
Not gonna go viral.
Oh, Phil, don't be silly.
Right, I've got a synopsis. If you're interested,
to say, Sarah, please take it away with a synopsis.
So, Saint Maud is a 2019 British psychological horror film written and directed by Rose Glass in her feature directorial debut. The story follows hospice nurse Maud, a recent convert to Roman Catholicism, who becomes obsessed with a former dancer in her care, believing she must save her soul.
Ooh.
Short and sweet.
Wasn't it? Nice and snappy.
Much like the film.
How
what is the running time?
It's less than 90 minutes, I know that. It felt very short to me.
Is it like 8? Why am I about to say 86 minutes? It's something like that. It's
81 minutes.
Yeah,
it's shorter. That is pretty short for a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the shorter side.
But it's pretty long for an advert.
It's longer than the film we did last time.
That is a valid point, Rosie. Well done.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what's going on. I've gone all
Yet
weird.
Another insightful comment from Rose.
I've had a moment. I had a nap. I had an accident.
Uh-oh.
It's all gone wrong.
That usually makes you sassy, but you've veered into confusion.
I've just gone a bit weird.
Oh, this is a recent thing, is it? Mm-hmm.
This level of weird, yeah. Maud is played by... No, I can say this. I can say that Maud. Morvith Clark.
Yes, I was going to say, we know we have at least one listener in Wales, so we cannot butcher the names this time.
I made sure to look it up.
I know, that's right. Morvith, yeah. And her name at the beginning of the film... Well, no, her name, previous to the beginning of the film was Katie, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And then she changes it to Maud, which is quite fitting, actually, because it means strength in battle.
Oh.
Well, they said that the meaning of the name... Well, Rose Glass said the meaning of the name was sort of incidental. And they picked it because it sounded very pure.
Sounds very pious, doesn't it?
It does, but it sort of sounded like something the character who was brand new to religion would have chosen.
I choose Benedict.
I can see it.
Would you? Last name, Ian Monk.
Don't be silly. That's not Roman Catholic.
Benedict, would you?
Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
Saint Benedict, is that the sequel?
What was that Pope?
Which one?
John Paul.
John Paul.
Something or other.
No, Saint Benedict. The one that came after John Paul. He was Saint Benedict the Enforcer, and he used to be in the Hitler Youth.
Why are you asking us then? You've just answered
The
your own damn
Enforcer.
question.
Because I forgot up until the point where I started questioning it.
I forgot until I didn't forget anymore.
It's the same thing as you saying something and me going, what? And then answering it because my brain's caught up with what you said. What?
I'm so sorry, guys.
But yeah, Benedict.
Uh-huh.
What would your Pope name be?
My Pope name.
Yeah.
Is that like the name of your first pet and the street that you lived on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to work out what your password for Facebook is, though.
I'm not on Facebook. Shows how much you know.
You are on Facebook. It's just deactivated.
It might be deleted now. I've been trying to figure out how to get back on it for about a year. I can't remember the passwords. I want my photos, damn it. I don't know what my Pope name would be.
I would have thought you'd know loads of Christian names.
I'm brain dead. I even stalled for time for a good 60 seconds there and I still didn't come up with anything. Jesus, there you go.
Pope Jesus.
Yeah, that's a Christian name that I learned.
I feel like that would be seen as blasphemous in some circles.
But if you were new to religion, you wouldn't necessarily know that.
Fuck it.
That's all I'm
God.
saying.
Pope God. And Pip can be Pope Mary. And I'll be Pope the Holy Spirit.
I was going to be the Holy Spirit.
No, you're Pope Mary.
There's three of us, and instead of going for the Holy Trinity, you pick Mary.
You're Holy Mary. Holy Pope Mary.
Like,
the most pious
God,
and
the Holy Spirit.
ladylike of all the popes.
And
Mary.
also virginal.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
He's the only one of us with a child, right?
Immaculate conception.
That's true.
Although
That's true.
apparently that's not what that means.
Oh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I can't. I don't ask me because I can't remember what it does mean. But it's not her getting knocked up by Jesus.
Oh. I
It's
thought it was an
something else.
angel, technically. An angel visited her.
No, an angel just told her.
I don't
By the
fucking
way,
know.
you're muy pregante.
Pregnant.
It was a
You have
Spanish
been-
angel, Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Gabriela. Tu es muy pregante, eso es una albondiga picante, eh?
So the
You have been
Angel
immaculately
Gabriel.
concepted.
This all sounds completely legitimate, yes.
No. Sorry. Saint Maud. Saint Maud, the film.
The film. So, is this a first watch for any of us?
No, second.
No. Yeah, second watch for me
yeah,
as well.
same for me. I think this perhaps maybe one of the first films in a while in which we've all seen it before.
Well, certainly seen it more than once, yeah, maybe ever.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
it was definitely one that we decided where we all first saw it that we had to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For sure.
I know we touched on it in at least one mini-sode and felt like we had a lot more to say. So now we have to...
Yeah.
Yeah, although now, weirdly, I'm like,
Yeah, I was just about to say, now we have to write that check that our ass may or may not be able to cash.
my ass definitely cannot cash that check.
Oh, damn it.
So, Rosie?
No.
One of the things I've noticed about this film, I think this is a film that I don't think it could be made in an American market. I don't think it's a very British horror movie.
Yes, but I think that's largely because of the setting more than anything else.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, I actually thought that it was set in America at the beginning because
Did you?
Really?
It says Coney Island on the arcades.
Oh, okay.
So apparently that's Scarborough.
Yeah, but I got really confused. I was like, is this America? But then everybody was speaking Welsh, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Which is stranger still in Scarborough.
Yeah. It was really fucking odd. It took me a while. But yeah, you were saying, no, I agree. It might be a bit more difficult over in America just because the American view of like Catholicism is much more evangelical, whereas I would say that the English view of like Roman Catholicism especially is much more hellfire and brimstone. And I'm not sure that any of the moments of not self-flagellation, what's the word I'm looking for? Like self-harm, basically.
Yeah. I think self-flagellation fits.
Yeah, I don't think that those moments would have necessarily specifically transcribed to an American audience because I don't think it's something which is part of their like arena, like unless you go back to sort of puritanical religion. But like in terms of modern religion, I don't think that really happens. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
it feels more evangelical and sort of like about God loving you rather than like you being pious and hurting yourself in order to prove yourself, you know?
Yeah, it does seem very archaic. But
Sort of
again,
very First Testament.
yes, I think, again, that sort of goes some way to illustrating the fact that she is quite new to religion. Like, obviously, Katie, Maud, whatever you want to call her, she appears to be somebody who was raised in a secular environment.
Yeah.
And has just sort of out of desperation, isolation and trauma clung to this idea of salvation and meaning.
Yeah, I mean, Rose Glass said that this film's very much about like suffering and isolation rather than somebody being like a fanatic.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to say.
Which is really interesting. It's a really interesting take. I mean, obviously it's the take, is what the film's about. But like, just really interesting take, Rose. I'm not sure I agree though. It's a really interesting take from the point of view that I think a lot of people when they saw the film thought that it was like somebody who was just crazy. And like fanatical about religion, and I think they looked very much on the face of it rather than the trauma that was below. I'm so sorry. Can you that car? I was saying to the guys, we're recording on a Tuesday, and Tuesday night in Herne Bay is boy racer night. When all the cars go past with their exploding exhausts.
I don't know if the same cars are coming through Canterbury, but that keeps happening here recently as well.
It's
just like
I don't know if
dude.
I don't know if it's a new thing because you get the cars which have the turbo on it and you speed them up and they go boo.
No, but this is
when
like
they
a
change
bang.
gear. But this is like bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
bang, 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 bang. It's
Yes.
what is going on?
I don't
Either
know.
he's got an incredibly strong spud gun stuck out the window, or something's wrong with his exhaust.
All I know is that my cats hide under the coffee table whenever it happens.
It's got to be one
Do not
guy.
blame
This
them.
can't be a trend.
No, it's just one dude driving between Canterbury and Herne Bay.
In his jalopy.
Yeah.
I think
Anyway, this is my apology for the ongoing bang, 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 bang that you might hear.
Accepted.
Thanks.
I think back to the film quickly. I think
Quickly. just for a sec.
Before we go off on another lengthy tangent.
I think a lot of that sense of like Britishness comes down to just the level of grubbiness that you see in this film. I don't think it's the type of kind of. It reminded me in a way of the look of like something like Possum as well.
Yeah.
They're just very grubby films, and that's the sort of aesthetic that I don't think many, if any, American movies have done.
I agree, and it's one reason that I love English films, because it kind of makes me shiver a little bit. Like, it's the grossness. You're right, it is intrinsically British, and I don't know why. I think I think dreary would be another really good word for this film.
It's the light to a
or
large
lack
extent.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. And everything's kind of tobacco stained or like just a bit grimy and a bit fingerprinty. And
but even even some of the exterior shots that actually should look quite beautiful, especially kind of when she's ascending the stairs to go to Jennifer Ely's character. Is it Amanda's house?
Yeah.
That looks gorgeous. Like that sort of scenery would normally look beautiful, but it's filmed and in such a way, and obviously in Scarborough,
it just looks bleak and foreboding.
It looks bleak as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also. Sorry, Rosie.
I agree. Looking out my window, actually, like,
yeah.
Well, just England is really in the cities is a really grubby place.
Yeah, absolutely grey, just grey.
Yeah,
as far
and
as you can see.
all the buildings are like varying shades of brown and grey and red, and it's a very definite colour palette that I don't think you find in many other places.
No, and it almost feels a little bit apocalyptic, which is sort of the perfect mood for a film like this.
Yeah. No,
I think
completely
as
agree.
well as just the history of the place as well. Like a lot of these buildings are decades, sort of maybe centuries old, and there's a lot of history within that perhaps isn't quite as evident in places like America because it's so new and it hasn't had the time to get that grubby,
I always, it tickles me how much Americans and Canadians are fascinated by English and British history. And I've always been like, do you not have like this stuff where you are? And then it's just
no, they're only 400 years old.
Yeah, you're such a young nation that I think I forget how steeped in history this place actually is.
Yeah, it's easily done, isn't it? Because it's just part of life.
Well, yeah,
here, right?
you kind of just take it for granted.
Exactly.
But then I guess albeit being a lot younger, their history is very much steeped within religion.
True.
Because it was the Puritans that came across.
Yeah.
So their like very base, like white religion anyway, is their like white history is very much based in puritanical religion, which is really quite terrifying when you think of all that it's grown up into.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least we had like castles and dudes with swords on horses. Cool. Yeah, it was awesome. It wasn't just guys in silly hats being like, I'm going to eat a turkey.
All of our American listeners suddenly stop listening at the half an hour mark. Sorry, guys. We'll win you back.
I'm not sorry. I stand by it. Fight me.
But I think that helps it is kind of something that's fairly intrinsic to the film as well, because one of the things I kind of picked up on is throughout the film there's a sense of things losing their sheen, but having kind of faded glory to them, Like you've got this magnificent house that's Amanda's in, that's kind of old and falling apart. Amanda herself is a minor celebrity who's fallen ill. Katie / Maud is having a bit of fall from grace. One of the quotes I picked up on was her saying, it takes nothing special to mop up after the decrepit and the dying. As in, when she's a kid, like she was this nurse that was,
saving lives.
Front lines of saving lives. Saving lives. And then
saving
she turned to saving lions, apparently.
There's a lot of glory in that, so I hear.
During her time in the Serengeti.
And then she turns to kind of care work, which, obviously it's a very important role.
Yeah.
But she doesn't see it as such. She sees it.
Yeah.
Or she sees it as like being able to follow what she feels she needs to do in the eyes of God, which is be somebody to bring people to salvation in their final days.
Yeah,
I think
her
that
redemption.
That line does come before, I think, the realization that Maud has a bit of a fight for Amanda's soul on her hands, and that's, I think, when she finds her kind of her spark, as it were.
So quick question. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. This is something that occurred to me while I was watching it the second time through. So obviously, Maud, as we know her, we find out kind of way further into the film that she's actually called Katie. And that's because somebody that we assume was a former colleague kind of stops her in the street and she tells her that she's kind of in palliative care now, and her old friend or colleague is kind of surprised, like, oh, you're still nursing?
Yeah.
Because I guess the understanding is that she would have been struck off. So obviously we're not explicitly shown what has happened, but you piece it together. Obviously, that I was surprised to hear that is something that can happen quite easily and frequently.
I mean, you kind of are shown explicitly what happens. You see her hands go through someone's sternum.
Yeah, in kind of like a, I don't want to call it a flashback, but like
bit of a kind of a PTSD.
Yeah.
Hallucination.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to learn that that's actually not...
With the very frail, that's something which can totally happen, yeah.
Oh, God, I can't imagine that. But yeah.
But I didn't see it as her being surprised because she thought she got struck off, because you wouldn't get struck off for that.
Well, that's my question. That's what I was leading to. I wondered if, because she's moved into palliative care now, but she's also had a name change. So is she completely masquerading as somebody new? Has she kind of, like, that's my question.
When the other nurse was surprised that she was still working in care and she was like, oh, you're still nursing, I automatically saw it as you're still nursing, because that was such a traumatic event that would have made people do a complete 180 and found something else to do that had nothing to do with the traumatic event that occurred. Whereas what she's effectively doing is revisiting the scene of her trauma every single day. She's going and looking after the frail and vulnerable who were in their last days of life. And she killed somebody who was frail and vulnerable in the last days of their life, trying to save them. So, like, she keeps on going back to the scene of the crime, if you like, and, like, trying to save people. But, as, like you say, as an act of redemption.
Yeah, but ultimately, like, my question is, do you think she has quite literally, like, cast off this former life? I mean, do you think she's had, like, a legal name change? Because she must be registered as Maud.
I do think it's that she's cast it off and assumed a new life.
In quite a literal sense, she's just...
in a really like obvious way of adapting her personality, because you see colours of her previous personality when she goes out to the pub and when she like kind of denounces God for the evening and ends up being like assaulted, and that's showing like who Katie was. And Maud is polar opposite, like just worlds apart in terms of her personality and the choices that she makes. So yeah, I think it was a very definite sort of choice to cast off who she was and become a new person full of redemption.
And do you think it was something that kind of was drip fed? Do you think it's something that happened gradually, or do you think it was just like wham, this traumatic event at work happened, and then it was like quite a quick 180? Because her life before seemed so drastically different, and it seemed like obviously she was in nursing because she must have cared about the health of others at some
it's
point.
A vocation,
so that the rest of her lifestyle that we kind of get glimpses into, her former lifestyle rather, seems completely at odds with that. So do you think it was like a gradual thing, or
that I'm not entirely sure about? I would hazard a guess that it was quite a quick thing, because trauma and like post-traumatic stress can shift the paradigm of someone's thinking really quickly, and it can literally be like a switch that's flipped, and it can completely morph like your view of the world. I would say it's more likely that she changed into Maud super quickly, and had she lived, then it would have eventually, had she got the help that she needed, she would have become Katie, but at a much slower rate.
Okay. I guess the glimpses at her former life as Katie are quite a good way of showing that being a good person isn't black and white. It's very much shades of grey. Like, she was doing a good thing with her vocation, but maybe being a bit reckless in her personal life. But the two are not mutually exclusive, as piously religious people believe them to be.
Yeah, for certain. I think as well the fact that she readily flips almost overnight back to Katie and then back to Maud across the entire film points to the fact that it has been quite an abrupt change. I know it's tied up with the idea of her losing her faith halfway through and then refinding it.
Yeah.
But given how readily she changes her whole persona and lets go of it and readopts it.
Does that make you think that maybe Maud isn't the person that she still really is?
What do you mean? That she isn't Katie, or
no, that she definitely is Katie and she's been Katie all along,
and this is just
and she's had the desires and wants of Katie. Yeah, but I appreciate that further on into the film, Maud becomes lost within her own religion and her own beliefs, but at the beginning, especially, up until the point where she loses faith and she becomes Katie, if you like, again for the evening, does that kind of made me think, so this idea of Maud and this pious, God-fearing woman, is that actually who you are, or is that something that you're putting on and you are trying to believe that's who you are? You desperately want to be someone else, but you're not. You're still her.
I would argue that that's probably true for a lot of people that find religion later in life. I think, I think there is a certain desperation there. I think there's, and this is not me kind of saying that there is anything wrong with religion. I was brought up in it. It's not for me. But I appreciate that a lot of people find comfort in faith, and I think that's fucking brilliant. If you're not affecting anybody else around you, that's brilliant. You do you. But I think the film does a really good job of illustrating how the desperation of loneliness can make you turn to religion, because when you find religion, you're never alone.
Yeah.
Because God's always with you. God's always watching over you. That's kind of drilled into you. So I think they do a really good job of showing that, and ultimately that's what makes it so sad. Because it's kind of made clear when her colleague sees her in the street that no one was there to support her after she experienced this trauma. Her colleagues weren't there for her.
No, because from the sounds of it, she left the hospital and that's it. Nobody saw her again.
Yeah, her
family is nowhere. You don't speak from her family. They're never mentioned throughout the entire film. It's not even brought into question whether, she has parents or siblings or anything like that. She is a completely lone entity. She lives in a tiny flat.
Oh God, that was depressing.
It's still depressing because I can see it, Phil, in your background.
But yeah, going back to what you were saying about dreary and grimy, that is the pinnacle.
That was what keyed me onto it. Seeing just the walls of her flat, they're just so grubby, And
what's weird though is that the entire thing's lit in a very homely way.
Yeah,
it's all lit with lamps rather than stark bright lighting. It's all very
small
warm
lights.
Lighting. It's all very warm, comforting lighting.
I think that's what makes it sadder.
Yeah,
because that's her sanctuary. Yeah. That's her safety. That one bedsit where she has nothing. Yeah. It is sad.
She's got a little shrine.
She's got a bug.
She has a bug, yes.
She's got a bug.
Like a Disney princess.
She's got some thumbtacks in a postcard that she puts into her shoes. Which was inspired. Well, why don't we get onto it now?
Okay.
It's inspired the act of, because we've just been talking about her spending the night as Katie, and she ends up being sexually assaulted, raped, whatever. However you want to see that scene acting out, it's something that she clearly didn't want. and she ends up like refinding her faith, which deserves talking about more, but she puts like thumbtacks into a postcard inside her shoes, and Rose Glass said that was inspired by some BDSM like pages that she was looking through, where people were putting like sharp sand and stuff into their shoes, so it was like a little bit of pain as they were walking everywhere.
I think she said in the example that she saw on the BDSM website, it was like gaffer tape.
Oh yeah, gaffer tape and thumbtacks, wasn't it?
Oof.
But they just gave it a religious slant where it's literally like a postcard of Mary Magdalene or something.
Yeah.
I think just quickly nipping back to, because I had a comment to say about the idea of loneliness. There's a sense of loneliness throughout the entire movie, and even what struck me, and I think it's the way they use sound. Even in the scene where she's in the cafe and there's people all around her, it feels lonely, and I think that's because there's not as much background hubbub as you'd expect. It just feels like everyone's sitting there in quiet, in kind of silence, and not really interacting with each other.
And
she's the only one that's sitting by herself as well, I think, in that scene. Everyone's in like 2s or 3s, and then she's right in the middle by herself.
But yeah, like that sense of loneliness is kind of pervasive throughout. But yeah, like back to what you were saying about the whole kind of self-flagellation thing. I think there's the whole film is kind of, and her sort of interpretation, her angle of what her religion is filled with intense pain and intense pleasure, because the self-flagellation she goes through is tremendously painful, you can tell.
But it brings her some sort of satisfaction.
But when she sees God,
she sees God, like that's proper ecstasy.
She practically orgasms.
Well,
like, they're called godgasms, aren't they?
Yeah, literally, like the same part of the brain that experiences things like religious ecstasy is the same thing as sexual ecstasy. Same parts of the brain that fire.
I did not know that.
So I'm told.
Which is terrifying, really.
Yeah. Should go to church more, really.
If the priest looks like fucking the priest in Fleabag.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
Moriarty, I love you. Andrew, what's his name?
Yeah, I think
he's
that's
just
it.
the best. Andrew, what's his name? That's his name. And I shall take his last name, and I shall be Rosetta. What's his name?
I still haven't seen season 2, but I've seen a lot of people talking about the sexy priest.
Mate, you need to.
I will.
Good.
I will.
But yes, priest. We were saying some stuff about godgasms. Yeah. The way that they make these godgasms seem like otherworldly by stretching out her facial features just a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I like that because it really adds to the whole kind of unreliable narrator aspect. Like you can't, we're seeing it, so we're like, oh, it must be real. But we're experiencing it through her. So
we're seeing it through the eyes of somebody who's maybe not like quite as mentally stable as you would like to think. The way that her facial features like misalign slightly, and like her eyes roll back a little bit too far, and she wears
jaw
color
kind of just goes a little bit wider than a human's should.
And what was the other thing? It wasn't CGI. They had her wearing different contact lenses in the film. Like
she's
two
got
different
colours.
colours.
Yeah.
But her eyes change at different points throughout the film as well.
But her eyes being different colours, I genuinely thought, because I clocked it and I was like, I'm going to look into why they've done that. They didn't do it for any other reason than Maud looked a bit boring. Literally, that was it. They were like, yeah, she looked a bit boring and we wanted something to set her apart from other people, so we gave her a different colour contact lens.
Which is weird, because I think part of why the character works so well is because she's so nondescript.
But there's like this little spark that you might not notice, or you might clock it and be like, wait a minute, is that okay? Like, because she is different. She's not necessarily different in good ways.
Or in the ways that she thinks.
And actually part of her difference is the fact that she's so, for want of a better term, boring. Like, she's so straight-laced, and in today's society where, like, debauchery is the norm, having somebody who rarely drinks or, doesn't take drugs and doesn't smoke and doesn't have sex and looks after people for a living and stuff, that's fewer and farther between than anything else.
I'll be honest, I feel like the glimpses of Katie, of her former life that we do see, that doesn't feel authentic either. Like, especially, like, there's a point where she's sitting in the pub and looking at other people, and it's like she's mimicking them, and I feel like she's just a deeply insecure person who doesn't know who she is, and she's sort of trying different personalities on for size, and this is the one that fits most in the moment based on what's happened to her.
Yeah, it kind of feels like two ends of a spectrum. Like, the person that she really is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But she is thinking in absolutes. Like, she's either completely good or she's completely not good.
But that's kind of religion in a nutshell, though, isn't it? It doesn't really leave any wiggle room for shades of grey. It is very
it's black and white thinking.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no if you kill yourself, then you're going to hell. If you kill someone else, then you're going to hell. If you do X, Y, and Z, hell. If you do A, B, and C, heaven. That's how that works.
Well, if I'm going to hell anyway, then I'm damn sure going to take somebody out with me.
But it's the idea that you can, like, live what is essentially a pretty terrible life and do awful things,
and repent
and then as long as at the
door.
end, you honestly repent and you go, oh, I did all those terrible things and I killed all those people, but I'm so sorry.
I've always hated that.
and oh, you are forgiven, my child. No, fuck you.
Yeah, but if you live your life being kind to everyone you meet, but you never discover religion, then who knows?
Or
coin toss for you.
What makes me big mad is the idea that if you spend your life doing wonderful things, looking after other people, being a good neighbour, sticking to the commandments, if you like, and then you are mentally ill, you're mentally ill and you end up taking your own life, then that's a cardinal sin. You're going to hell for that. No take backsies. You can't repent that. It drives me fucking nutty. The choices you make within your life realistically count for fuck all.
Yeah.
I don't want to get onto a religion hating spiel. I don't hate religion, but we've both been brought up within quite heavy religious circles, albeit in slightly different churches.
It was strange for me watching a film like this because a lot of it seems really far-fetched. But having, as a child, kind of gone to pick my mum up from Christian retreats that she was on, and people are literally they think they're faith healing, and people are speaking in tongues, and it's just like, the fuck? And you think I'm mentally ill? I don't know. That to me is a very different kind of delusion. Yeah. I mean, like I say, if it's not harming anyone else and it is bringing you some sort of comfort, have at it.
For sure,
But to me, that seems extreme. And I'm a science girl. Where's your evidence, basically?
So I was raised as a spiritualist. I was actually raised within a Christian spiritualist church, but spiritualist more so than anything else. So there was a lot of faith healing, and also a lot of seances and
this is
mediums and
in my church spiritualism is not acknowledged.
No, and in my church, hellfire and brimstone isn't. Basically, they're like, "Nah, you're not going to hell because you're a nice person." But the idea of faith healing you say, where's the science? I am more or less certain, I need to do a bit of digging. I genuinely think that there is a provable effect on the brain in the presence of faith healing and like a transference of energy, if you like. Like I genuinely think that there is scientific proof of an effect on the brain. So in terms of science, there is science to show it. Whether I don't think it's like if somebody puts their hands on somebody else and all the goodness goes through them into the person and affects their brain. I think that as a placebo effect.
Well, yeah, there's evidence of placebos working. Yeah, I understand
but like
that.
as specifically in this case, as a placebo effect, having somebody feeling like somebody is physically healing them is a very strong sensation, and it's something which can definitely have very positive outcomes.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I guess you know me, I'm a cynic, and I'm basing it. What I have issue with is the shit that I've seen where it's a dude in a suit grabbing somebody's forehead for a second, throwing them back, and then asking for donations.
Fuck that. Like
that is evil to me.
Prime fucking example, Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Jim Jones used to pay people to sit in his congregation and be healed by him.
Yeah.
And the idea that he's the only person that's ever done that is quite frankly fucking ridiculous.
Oh no, I'm sure that's the norm.
Yeah, precisely. So this, you know, like mega church faith healing, hand on head, your migraines and your blindness is now gone, and people like speaking in tongues and rolling around on the floor. That's a fucking farce. That's fucking nonsense.
Yeah, but
it's dangerous.
Yes,
at best, to make people believe that's the truth.
That's it, because a lot of people kind of in the past have turned their back on traditional therapies for things like cancer because they believe they're going to be healed by their faith, and that to me is evil. That's misleading somebody for your own gain, which is the antithesis to what religion should be about, surely. But yeah, that's a different conversation for another time.
I know, we said that we weren't going to start hating on religion, and both of us are like,
we
fuck
are.
you.
I've got some
hate
mental
religion.
Scars of my own, Rosie. I
don't
need to
hate
work
religion.
this shit out.
I think that faith is an incredibly strong and a very mindful and a very beautiful thing when it's in the right circumstances.
Yes, and I think faith can be completely separate to religion as well.
Absolutely. Faith is the idea that, you know, you're not alone and there is something else and something to cling to when you're in your darkest moments. And actually, I think this film really separates very well that idea, because Maud has religion. I'm not entirely sure that she has faith that she's going to be saved. I think she has like blind faith within the religion rather than faith within.
I think I mean, we're obviously going to spoiler the heck out of this film, so I mean, maybe we should start talking about the second half now, because I think there does come a point where she does have blind faith that she's going to be saved.
But it's blind, it's not.
Yeah. I don't know if it is. I would argue there's a point at which, there's an interesting moment actually when she is in her flat and she has the seizure.
Yeah.
And there's that moment where she has a seizure, she throws up, and then we see her kind of aloft.
Like levitated.
With the fireworks behind her. And it's a beautiful shot, by the way. Can we just talk about the cinematography there?
Yeah, it's really transcendent.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, throughout this film, they do such a good job of casting doubt. Until that, and we'll get to it, until that very final frame, I was left guessing, just like, is it in her head? I flip-flopped the entire running time.
Because it's really easy to watch the film not through her eyes. It's because it's never discerned whether you're watching the film through her point of view or whether you're just observing something happening. And like you're saying, it's an unreliable narrator. but you end up getting to the point where, because you're alone in a room with her with something happening, you're like,
well, it must be true.
Oh, okay. Well, it must be true because there's nobody else here to tell me that it's false.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was really interesting that they showed her having a seizure, because obviously there's medical evidence that, you know, the things that your brain goes through during a seizure and the things that can happen to you in terms of it warping your reality slightly.
Well, what they think now is that Joan of Arc was epileptic.
Yeah.
They think that she was epileptic and that all of her sort of religious dealings, what word am I looking for? Her religious experiences of like seeing and talking to God and stuff, they were all part of hallucinations she was having through her epilepsy.
Yeah.
And that led to her like leading an entire, you know, army, and I mean, eventually to her demise, to her death.
It's a good parallel, to be honest, in terms of
the parallels between Maud and Joan of Arc throughout this film are like many, and in terms of her being on a crusade to save people.
Maud had more hair, but that's about it.
But Joan of Arc was a bigger badass. So.
That's true.
On a similar note, I was looking up Saint Afra, who was it's the name of the hospital. Well, who the hospital was named after, where she worked. There's a couple of conflicting stories, but one of them is that Afra was a martyr who was burned alive. To sort of in her death, which, you know, again, I think there's they were very deliberate with the choices they made to significance.
What's the other story, out of interest? You said one of the stories is that she was burned alive.
The other is that she wasn't.
Well, yeah, but like, what? She was crushed by a giant marshmallow? Like what?
Yeah, just
one big beetle
already.
She fell into a bucket of kittens and they smothered her.
That sounds great.
The dream.
That's how I want to go, to be honest.
Can you
she was beheaded.
Make it Pogs?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Beheaded.
Okay.
That's the other story. But, you know, I certainly hadn't heard of a Saint Afra before watching this film.
I hadn't. I don't think.
I have, but only because someone I know has a dog called Afra.
Afra, yes, I know Afra.
Okay.
Fucking love that dog.
She's a cutie.
She is a cutie.
But it got me curious because, you know, you can... the obvious choice would be a saint that everyone's familiar with. Because it's just a throwaway name of a hospital. It could be anything, right? But they obviously chose a specific name, and...
It could be anything.
Not anything.
Hospital can of paint.
Well, I was just
hospital fish and chips.
I was having much the same thought process as I was at the start of the show when you said think of some Christian names. My brain just said Jesus again.
St. Jesus Hospital.
The Jesus Hospital, yes. You know the one.
The Jesus Hospital for Jesus people. We'll have no trouble here.
So yeah, no, it just got me curious because I figured there was a conscious decision to name that hospital after a lesser known saint.
I think you're right.
I was curious the story behind it.
I think you're either right or it's serendipity, and that was genuinely the nearest hospital in the vicinity.
Maybe.
Like there's always the potential we're reading too much into it. I'd like to think you're right though.
I think this is a film where there is a lot of thought has been put into the subtext.
Which is why it really surprises me when there's certain stuff that I read about which has no thought process behind it at all, like the coloured contacts.
Yeah,
because I was so sure that like every single thing in this film had a definite meaning.
Well, I mean,
and actually that's not necessarily true.
But it was all right. It didn't have a meaning, but it had a purpose.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm trying to think of.
I mean, there was no symbolism to it, but...
Right, hear me out.
Okay. Oh, no.
Event Horizon.
Oh, this again.
No, it's new. No, it's something... I watched it last night and it's something new that I realised.
Okay.
Right? So, basically, every person that dies, their death is foretold before they die. And I'd never seen it before.
In Event Horizon?
Yes.
Okay.
So their death is foretold, and I'd never noticed it before, and it was only through like the 56th viewing or something. So like Peter's, just before she dies, she runs down a corridor to look at her son, and the corridor is in the shape of a coffin.
Okay.
Lawrence Fishburne, Skipper, his hallucination is this soldier that was set on fire that like he left behind. He dies in an explosion. Who else is there? Cooper's Fives.
What's the link though?
TJ. TJ is killed by having surgery and like being ripped open and having like all of his guts spilt. And when he has his shirt open, he has a scar going from his neck down to his belly button.
Okay.
So like it's all foretold. But my
Mate,
thinking is
chair.
like, I'm so sorry. I am gonna get a new chair. I don't know when, but it's going to happen and it's not going to squeak anymore. So just bear with, okay?
Okay.
It's this idea that things are... Every single thing in a film can have a meaning. Every single thing in a film can have like a definitive, we've put this in to make this point.
Yeah.
Which is why I was really surprised in this film, because it seemed like half of the stuff was put in to make a point, and actually some bits were just put in because me.
Yeah,
and that always really confuses me, because I want to always think that like everything has a meaning. That's how I always look at films. Well, everything has got a meaning.
I guess it's sort of easier to assume if something's got a meaning, everything must have a meaning. Yeah, I see what you're
exactly
saying.
That. So the idea that like some things actually just don't, and they're just you know aesthetically pleasing. It's like, what? Why? Find the meaning.
Well, it's interesting you say that, actually, because I watched a couple of interviews with Rose Glass before we recorded, and she talked a bit about the progression of the script. And initially, the first draft of the script was the whole film was born out of the desire to kind of expand on this idea that we are all the main characters in our own story, and we all experience reality very differently because you know, as it pertains to us, and we all kind of have this voice in our head. And her idea was like, what if there was a woman but the voice in her head was God, or she thought it was God, and the film was just sort of her conversations with God in inverted quotes. And it wasn't until kind of a much later draft of the film that the Amanda character came into play, and because she thought initially it would be too limiting. But yeah, it was interesting to hear how the whole thing developed.
I found it super interesting. Can we talk for a second about Maud speaking to God? Well,
I guess it's probably perfect time, because that's kind of post seizure, isn't it? And
yeah, it's post seizure. So this like bug that she sees in her room falls onto the mantle and then starts talking to her in this kind of very wizened old like Welsh voice. And I know our Welsh listener was very excited by this prospect. What I didn't tell her at the time that we were having this conversation is that the voice of God is Morvith Clark.
But
it's Morvith Clark's voice,
down.
but like pitched down and slowed down. And I thought that was super smart, because it's one of those things that you're not going to pick up on whilst you're listening to it, and you're going to go, God's Welsh, check it out. Or like her God's Welsh, because she is.
Well, the character isn't, or she's not intended to be.
Does she not have a Welsh accent?
Not a very strong one. Basically, that came about because Rose Glass would
Can you
overhear. I assume you're talking to Fawkes and not me.
I'm talking to Fawkes. He is not. I'm so sorry. He's not leaving me alone. I might actually have to go and feed him.
But yeah, there was a point at which on set, like Rose Glass would hear Morvith Clark on the phone to her parents talking in Welsh, and she was just
I thought it was so lovely.
She's like, maybe we need to work that into the film somehow. And she kind of thought like Welsh almost does sound quite
like talking in tongues,
quite
kind of
old and important, and so she was like, here we go. And then it is a nice Easter egg for people who
it's like an
realise that
ancient
it's her.
language, isn't it? Welsh.
But it's also a nice touch that it kind of backs up the fact that she is still literally talking to herself.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah, she like throughout the film, you're like, oh, she's talking to God, and then like you look it up afterwards, and you're like, holy shit, it's moving along.
Well, I think it's perfectly done as well, because you can tell that it is a voice that's been digitally altered somehow. I think it's obvious, but that in itself lends it quite an ambiguity, because it's deeper than a woman's voice would be, but it doesn't have the same quality that a man's voice. So it's kind of a bit ambiguous from a gender standpoint, which I think in one side of the sort of on one side reinforces the idea that it is God, for example. But also, as we've established, kind of points to the fact that it's just hearing Rosie's chair squeaking.
Do you know what? You can take it out in post-production, Phil. You don't have to say it. You can delete it. I'm not saying anything.
Just pretend it's my hip every time.
It just points to the fact that it's
yeah, I'm the oldest. It stands to reason.
It just points to the fact that it's Maud herself. Yeah, that's what it said.
Off she pops. I think that's a really interesting point, and I think you're right. Having a voice that is of ambiguous gender is kind of the perfect representation for this unseen deity. I think that works really nicely. I didn't realise it was Morveth Clark the first time I watched it. It was only in kind of doing some research, because apparently she's not even credited.
Oh, okay.
In like official kind of terms, it's something that you would have to dig for to find out, which is, I kind of like stuff like that. I find it's more rewarding.
Well, it's like Tilda Swinton in
Suspiria.
Tilda.
Yeah.
It's just one of those kind of nice touches that add to the film as a whole, but you only kind of get if you've looked it up and if you've kind of done the research.
Yeah, I like that. Nerd rewards.
Easter eggs. Nerd points. Nerd points for fancy girls and boys.
So, can we talk about that finale?
No.
Please. Because genuinely, like, I felt... Granted, it's a very short film.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it, it felt about an hour long. So it whizzed by. Considering it's a very deliberately paced, quite slow film, I thought the running time whizzed by.
It did. What I will say is that you're missing one bit of the film before we get to that point.
Ooh.
No, when I say no, I don't mean finale on the beach. I mean like the climax.
Yeah, no, totally. Right, yeah, okay.
Like, one thing we haven't really talked about is Jennifer Ealey, who was kind of the perfect foil to Maud in a lot of ways. Like, they sort of shared a weird bond, and there was a little kind of like, dare I say, homoeroticism in places. Like, there was this weird,
like a little like hand touching, and
it was like, well, because obviously Amanda is shown to entertain a lady caller, so we know that her sexuality is at the very least
fluid,
bisexual. Yeah, at the very least bisexual. So yeah, I don't know. I wondered if you guys picked up on that as well. Like, there is kind of like...
Yeah, I did. I mean, they have a shared experience of seeing God and having a godgasm.
Yeah.
Which is the closest thing to them fucking without them fucking, I guess.
And not only that, I think I was going to mention this when you talked about the idea that Katie and Maud are a bit fluid throughout the entire movie. When Maud peeks in and sees Carol and Amanda together, she doesn't react the way you perhaps expect she would from someone who is so pious.
Yeah, she stays there looking for a lot longer than you would imagine she'd be comfortable with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think I 100% picked up on that.
And also there's something that I wondered about when she's sort of, did you say Carol?
Carol, yeah.
Yeah, when she's kind of trying to convince her to leave and not return in the kindest terms. It kind of sort of comes from maybe a place of jealousy as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you?
I mean, what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted was that they...
Hey, you fucked off for a solid minute.
Not by you. Not by... have you met my cat?
I have. He hates me.
He was not going to stop. So when they have this like shared godgasm and like I said, they're basically fucking without actually fucking. It creates this weird kind of relationship where there's a point in the film literally where Jennifer Ely, Amanda, gives the oldest line in the book, which was, "I was fucking faking it."
Yeah,
I was faking it. Like, this shared experience that we had meant nothing to me. I was faking it. And it's the same, it's like that hurtful thing that people say to their sexual partner in order to stab the knife in. Like, it didn't mean it. It didn't mean anything to me. Yeah. I didn't feel the same way that you felt.
Like a reflexive thing. If you've been hurt, I'm going to fucking hurt you back, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what did you guys think? Do you think she was genuine with that relationship throughout the film, or was it all put on?
I think it was largely put on. I think they were both very, very lonely people. So I don't think all of it was put on. I think there was some sort of a connection there, at least in the beginning.
A really sort of dysfunctional one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because when Amanda gives that book of Dore, is it Dore?
Is it
Art?
Blake. Thomas Blake.
Not Thomas Blake. Thomas isn't the right name, is it? William Blake.
I think whoever it is.
No, look it up.
I thought it was Thomas Blake.
Anyway.
When she gives him this, when she gives her this book of etchings, it's taking the piss. She's taking the piss out of her.
Yeah. That's sad.
I'm wrong. It's William Blake. Blake.
Phil.
Someone Blake.
Because
we know it's someone Blake.
It doesn't matter. Sweet Christ. But yeah, that kind of makes me sad. That's a sadder read on it.
It's William Blake. Sorry, that literally took me 5 seconds to look up.
Anyway.
I already said I was wrong.
But she goes through that book. The thing is, Amanda gives her this book as like a piss take. Yeah. And it's like, your religion. Because William Blake's well known for creating drawings to do with like the Divine Comedy and stuff, which are really kind of fucked up. Like, his angels are fucking weird. But it feeds into this delusion for Maud, and she reveres this book, and she like cuts them up and puts them on her shrine. And I think that she becomes obsessed not only with saving Amanda, but I think she's in love with her.
Just obsessed with Amanda.
Yeah. She lives, Amanda lives this life of nonchalance and sort of being quite laissez-faire about everything that Maud doesn't know or understand, really.
Well, no, I think she does. I think that's part of her
and do you think she's
struggle.
Lamenting it?
I think that's part of her internal struggle, because I think the life that Amanda leads is probably more closely resembles her life as Katie. And so she's sort of torn.
I think as well that book's important to her because it's perhaps the first time maybe in which Amanda acknowledges that she's her angel, and for someone who's taken on this purpose to save the soul of this woman she cares about, for that person to then turn around and acknowledge that and welcome
But
it.
she's not acknowledging it. She's not welcoming it.
Well, no,
Maud thinks she
that's
is.
her
Yes,
interpretation
that's what I
of it.
meant.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
that's confirmation enough to somebody who's clearly mentally ill.
And so of course she's going to latch onto that and treasure that book because it's the concrete evidence that what she's doing is working. And also, just quickly mention now the also when she goes through the book, Maud also starts mimicking the poses of the characters in the book in the same way that she mimics people
the
at
angels.
the pub.
Yeah.
And again, like points to this idea of like her not really knowing who she is.
Oh yeah,
and
it's
trying to
all just informed by what she's seen and read, but not necessarily interpreted correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very confused. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because the stuff that leads up to that kind of face-off between Maud, who has kind of fully succumbed to this saviour complex, and Amanda effectively on her quite literal deathbed in this case. I find it interesting because it all comes back to like shades of grey or black and white. Because in Maud's head, it's very black and white. She is good, and she's now seen Amanda's true face, which she believes to be evil, and the only way she can release her is to kill her quite violently.
But that demonic she's evil. Yeah. Like she shows herself to be evil in Maud's eyes.
Mm-hmm. But again, like if you view it through Amanda's eyes, like Amanda is absolutely a flawed human being, but you still feel for her because she's shades of grey, and as we all are. So I think that dichotomy right up until the final moment is just really brilliantly done.
Yeah, I mean, Amanda's more human. Amanda is human to Maud's angel, if you get what I mean. Like, Amanda is shades of grey, Maud's black and white, and Maud is less than human, or less human in that respect.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually it kind of drives home the point that Maud is maybe something other than human, which I find is really interesting.
Yeah, and I think just that whole scene was done kind of pitch perfectly to me, because at that point, I mean, we're like 75 minutes in when that death scene occurs, and I felt like I'd been holding my breath from the beginning of the film until that happened. And I remember the first time I watched it, my jaw was just hanging.
Yeah.
I knew something was coming, but I was just like, oh, okay.
And that, like, that little spot of proper full-on CGI, like, devilry, I was not expecting that at all. Not in a million years.
No.
Not in a million years.
No.
And again, it leaves you questioning, like, is this some kind of paranormal thing that we're seeing, or is this a delusion within Maud's mind? Or, like, you are questioning every single thing that happens in this film right up until the very last scene.
Which,
very last shot, really.
Yeah, the very last shot. Yeah, the last
second. I mean, I guess it's sort of the natural conclusion for her character is to, in her mind, kind of
ascend,
embrace like complete martyrdom. And I mean, I guess what actually happens is that she self-immolates on a beach. But I mean, that's something that like monks would do as a form of protest, or in acts of martyrdom.
Tibetan monks,
yeah,
like setting themselves on fire, like Buddhist monks setting themselves on fire. Yeah, absolutely,
as this act of like pure sort of martyrdom.
It does raise the question: can you martyr yourself? Do you have to be martyred by others, or can you martyr yourself? Because realistically, if you can martyr yourself, irrespective of whether it was martyring or self-immolation, and like the very last scene, you see this woman burning alive. Is she still a martyr?
No.
Because she's done it to herself?
In this case, definitely not. She is no martyr. She is a very, very sad girl who was failed by everyone around her.
Every person and every system.
I was going to say the mental health system particularly. Just failed at every turn, was offered no support, and very unfortunately accumulated in 2 deaths.
This is it seems like all throughout the film it's this vaguely paranormal, quite ethereal and wonderful
And mysterious.
yeah, like series of events, and then in that very last second you realize that it's not any of that. It's a really sad and steady decline into
Madness.
insanity, and then death for this poor, isolated, suffering girl.
It is a very, very sad film. When you,
it's really sad,
when you
and
look
like
at
it
like
really
that.
hits home in that last second. Like that broke my heart.
Yeah, but talk about memorable.
Mm.
I mean, how many films could have pulled that off? Just the choice to end it with that split second that removes any ambiguity is just so
that
chilling.
image is like burned into my retinas.
That's it's one way of phrasing it.
The image, yeah. Well, sorry. The shot right before where she's like looking up into the clouds and she's got these massive angel wings and stuff. Again, that's alluding back to Joan of Arc. Like there are images of Joan of Arc looking exactly like that.
Okay.
And it's very much she truly believes that she is leading a crusade and she is a martyr and she is doing God's work while she covers herself in isopropyl alcohol. It's just it's the most it's painful because you want to reach through the screen and be like, no, don't fucking do it. But there's nobody in her life to tell her not to.
Yeah,
that's the really sad part. It's not even necessarily the part that she's clearly quite delusional. It's the fact that there is nobody that is in her life to tell her not to do what she's doing and to make her see a semblance of reality.
It's quite...
Like
it's interesting that she's still so sympathetic at that point. Like you said, you wanted to sort of reach through the screen and, you know, maybe give her a hug, tell her not to do it, that everything is going to be okay.
Her murdering isn't her, you know, because it's Maud, it's not Katie.
True,
but Katie's who I feel sorry for.
Yeah, but even sort of prior to the actual criminal act, she's kind of detestable the way that she judges other people, and she is so pious throughout. She's not a nice person.
But again, I think that's a put on. I don't think like Katie judges anyone.
But this is what I'm saying, though. I think it's kind of testament to Morveth Clark's performance first and foremost that she is still sympathetic despite everything we've seen her do and say.
It was either her or the actual film won 2 BAFTAs, British Film Institute Awards.
Okay.
For like, I'm pretty sure she won Best Actress in a couple of different film awards and stuff, because she's phenomenal.
I've never seen her in anything else, but she's outstanding.
I'm not actually sure she's been in anything else, has she?
That's nuts. If this is straight out of the gate, then that is insane.
Honestly, I think that directing a feature film out the gate is fucking brilliant as well.
Yes, I think
she was in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh wow!
She's in the His Dark Materials BBC series.
We don't need to know her IMDb. It's fine.
Crawl. She was in that.
I can look it up, babe.
Just
I can Google it.
Just telling you the things she was in.
Was she in anything interesting?
No.
St. Maud. If those weren't interesting enough, then no.
They definitely weren't.
But yeah, I think it's just really interesting to see stuff like this being funded from a first-time director in a post-Ari Aster landscape. I think I'm so excited. Well, not just Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, but you know, there's a bunch.
Oh, Eggers, love a bit of Eggers.
But like, I'm excited about the direction that horror is going in.
The future of horror, yeah, for sure.
This is the shit that gives me chills.
Yeah, this is 100% my jam.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
The Lighthouse, Midsommar,
just
Us,
more of this,
Get
please.
Out. More Jordan Peele, more Eggers, more Ari Aster, more Rose Glass, 100%.
Less franchise money grabs.
Yeah. Less Hen and Lotta.
All right, well, I think that just about sums up our thoughts on Maud. St. Maud, in fact. Not Maud.
To give
Just
her full
Maud.
title.
Brain is melting.
Well, I mean, they did just call him Jesus, and technically he was Saint Jesus.
You're not wrong.
As we found out.
St. Jesus Hospital, check it out. It's on TripAdvisor.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Check us out on social media. Give us a rating on your podcast platform of choice. We're also on Patreon.
Only if it's a good rating, though.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, if it's a shit rating. If it's a shit rating, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourself.
Write it down on a
chumps.
piece of paper and then set it on fire.
Tie it to a frisbee and fling it over the rainbow.
We're also on Patreon, so if you fancy basically double the content for only $2 a month or £2 a month, wherever you are, come find us on there. But yeah, until next time, stay spooky.
See you later, guys.
Bye.